local came to you, or was it kind of something that progressed over time, or what did that look like?
It actually progressed over time. So another very important detail, it was basically my brother's experiences during 6th and 7th grade, which is prep school, which actually inspired me to start Bullyproof as well, because I saw how he was bullied and how traumatic it was for him in those years. And I just realized that it is essential for someone to start the conversation, and that's why I started with something new.
Now, Lauren, after film school, you decided to make a documentary called about Girl Against Girl Bullying, and you conducted lots and lots of interviews with different people. What surprised you during these interviews?
My co-founder Molly and I, to make the film, we got in a minivan with both of our moms and a cameraman, and we drove around America for 2 months. Yeah, interviewing women and girls all over the country, and we had convinced a block of schools around the country, quite a few actually, it was about 20 to 30 schools, to let us come in and kind of test pilot this idea for a school assembly program. This was about 8 years ago now. I think going into it, again, bullying wasn't the conversation that it is now in the States, and we were initially just really curious to see, if people would be willing to be vulnerable and talk about these things, and it was just so apparent that we were kind of popping the lid off of something. Every single woman, girl, whether they were 10 or 45, had an experience or is currently going through something. I think just realizing truly how universal the issue of girls and girl bullying is, I think was surprising. And I think another thing that was really surprising was how young it started. I think back on my experience, and I truly feel like, in elementary school, I didn't really have the knowing that young kids have now. And I think, as cliche as it may sound, a lot of that is attributed to the technology that young kids now have. And, most of the kids when you go into 2nd, 3rd grade classrooms, most of them have cell phones. They're talking through their cell phones, and kind of seeing how that affects the way kids communicate, I think is really, really shocking. Obviously, when you're dealing with an 8-year-old versus an 18-year-old, you have a bit of a different dialogue. And so we have more of an interactive discussion with younger girls. And one of the first questions we ask them is, what sort of words or thoughts come to mind when you think about girls or you think about your friendships? And 9 out of 10 times you see these 7, 8, 9-year-old girls saying sadness and isolated or alone or jealous. And it's these words. I think that was truly one of the most shocking things. You expect words like rainbows and happiness and together, and that really isn't what we hear.
A reminder that you're listening to The Conversation, a program about women, by women, for everyone. Now today we're discussing bullying. What can be done about it? With two campaigners from Pakistan and the United States. Lauren Paul is the co-founder of the KIND campaign, a non-profit movement that seeks to end girl against girl bullying. And Zainab Chitani is the founder of Bullyproof, a social awareness campaign that works to prevent bullying among young Pakistani in schools. Lauren, your focus is on girls, but don't boys face similar issues as well?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we talk about that during our assemblies. We're in no way suggesting that boys don't go through this, because they absolutely do. Definitely in the United States, there's this thing with women, with girls, that almost this rite of passage or this knowing that you have as a girl or as a woman that girls are just difficult, and that friendships with other women, with other girls, can be a very hard and just kind of this negative experience, really. So this theme of girl against girl, we call girl against girl crime, is just something that's really prevalent here. I think for us, we kept it focused to girls for a few reasons. One, we're 2 young women starting the organization, and we dive into things that are very specific to a girl's experience. And, there are times where schools can't separate the boys for the assemblies. And when we do these assemblies, we provide the schools with material so that they can do something with the boys as well. We don't want, to leave them in the dark about all this. But when a school can't separate the boys, we'd obviously rather do the assembly than not do it. So there are times, once in a while, where boys are in the room, and you know, it's interesting because it's almost like the boys take over the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that boys do go through it. But what happens is a lot of those issues that the girls are dealing with are about the boys, or they're embarrassed to open up because they don't want to look, you know, they don't want to look weak.
And I can completely relate to what you said when you have boys present in the same workshop as girls, because, again, that happened with some sixth graders, and the boys were all up, you know, they were interactive, they were the ones talking about their issues, you know, and there was like a playfulness about how they presented what was going on, but there was like a huge, it was about, you know, 50% of the class was girls, and I realized none of them was willing to talk, and that was the moment where I realized that these sessions have to be separate. And also because unfortunately patriarchy and the institution of male superiority is strong in this part of the world, so a woman is not really taken very seriously, and unfortunately that is indoctrinated from a very young age. And so I know that even if I went in to speak to 12 and 13-year-olds, I would be dismissed, or there'd be catcalling and jeering, and I've experienced that. And you know, I had one of my psychologist therapist friends who was there with me, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're shaking." And I was like, "I know, but you're only 13." But I was like, "I'm scared," you know. And so
13-year-olds can be this an intimidating group.
Exactly. So, and I just realized that I needed to create a space where they would listen to what I had to say, and I realized they're going to listen to another guy though, right? And that's when the light bulb clicked. So one of my friends, he's a musician, so he and I used to perform. I used to play guitar while I used to sing back in the day, and he's like one of the most... What?
I did too.
Really?
Or did you say you used to sing and